Okay, so get this. We are talking North Korean troops in Ukraine
Wow.
fighting alongside Russian forces. I know it sounds crazy, right?
It's pretty wild.
It's a crazy situation.
It is.
But that is what we're diving into today.
Absolutely.
And, it's not just about the boots on the ground.
No,
We are going to be exploring the global ripple effect this whole thing has caused.
Yeah.
But we're going to be focusing specifically on how the European Union is grappling with this, pretty unexpected twist in this conflict.
Well, I think what's so fascinating about this is it's not just the immediate military implications.
Right.
This really throws a wrench into a very complicated web of, global relationships and alliances.
It's a mess.
It really is.
So right away, the EU is calling for a full withdrawal of these North Korean troops from Russia's borders. And they're not messing around. They're actively working with international partners to figure out what to do.
Yeah. What's the game plan here?
Yeah.
But it really makes you wonder, what kind of leverage does the EU actually have in this situation? Especially when you consider that, North Korea is already pretty isolated on the world stage.
Exactly. And that's the million-dollar question, right? Because the EU, their strength has always been, economic and diplomatic. Like sanctions, trade agreements. These are powerful tools, and they've certainly used those against Russia.
Right.
But with North Korea, it's a whole different ballgame.
Yeah.
Because they've already been under really heavy sanctions for years.
Right.
So finding a new pressure point is a real challenge.
Yeah.
That's why this emphasis on collaborating with other major players, like the U.S. is so important, right?
Yeah.
Because if they present a united front, that could really amplify the pressure on both Russia and North Korea.
And it's not just the troops themselves that are raising red flags.
The EU is also super concerned about this growing military partnership.
Absolutely.
Between Russia and North Korea.
Yes.
We're talking about Russia buying ballistic missiles from North Korea.
Right.
Which, that's a huge violation of multiple UN Security Council resolutions.
Absolutely. And it's specifically resolutions 1718, 1874, 2087, and 2094.
Okay, wow. So quite a few then.
Yeah. And just to clarify for our listeners.
Yeah.
These resolutions aim to prevent North Korea from developing, nuclear weapons and ballistic missile technology.
It's really concerning.
It is, because it shows how easily international agreements can be undermined.
Yeah.
And it sets a dangerous precedent.
For sure.
For other nations that might be thinking about, skirting the rules.
Yeah.
The worry is that this could lead to even more dangerous weapons getting out there.
Right.
Destabilizing already volatile regions.
And speaking of destabilization.
Yes.
We cannot ignore the very real impact that this is having on Ukraine. There are reports that Russia is already using these missiles and ammunition in the conflict.
It's true.
Which is just another layer to the human cost.
Right. And when you look at the bigger picture,
Yeah.
this has the potential to really shift the balance of power in the conflict.
Yeah.
North Korea is basically giving Russia a fresh supply of military resources.
Right.
So that could prolong the fighting and make a peaceful resolution a lot harder to achieve.
So as this is all unfolding, the EU is calling on Russia to stop the aggression, pull back their troops from Ukraine, and basically undo all this damage that they've caused.
Yeah. Right.
It's a strong stance.
It is.
But how realistic is that? What are the options here?
That's the $64,000 question.
Yeah.
Because, the EU's demands are morally justified, of course.
Right.
But actually making those demands a reality, that's a whole other story. So, further sanctions against Russia are probably on the table.
Yeah.
But will they actually work?
Right.
Especially in the short term.
Yeah.
That's a big question mark.
Yeah.
I mean, the EU could also try the diplomatic route, try to get some kind of peaceful negotiation going. But that requires both sides to be willing to talk.
Right.
And right now, that doesn't seem very likely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And here's where things get even more interesting.
Okay.
The EU isn't just calling out Russia and North Korea.
Right.
They are also calling out Belarus and Iran for supporting Russia in this conflict.
It's a really interesting point because it shows how the landscape of global alliances is changing.
Totally.
Belarus has deep ties to Russia.
Right.
Economically and politically.
All right.
So their alignment's not a surprise.
Right.
But Iran, that's a different story.
Yeah.
They might be seeing this as a chance to push their own agenda.
Yeah.
Maybe in the Middle East.
Right.
Or even challenging, the existing world order led by the West.
Yeah.
These alliances, they could completely change global politics.
Yeah.
And add fuel to the fire.
For sure.
In already volatile areas.
And the U.S. State Department has actually confirmed that a huge number of these North Korean soldiers are already fighting alongside Russian troops.
Wow.
Specifically in the Kursk region.
Okay. And the Kursk region is important for a couple of reasons.
Okay.
First of all, it borders Ukraine.
Right.
So it's a key staging ground for Russian forces. And second, it's got these really important railway lines and highways that they use to move troops and supplies.
So it's a logistical hub.
Exactly. So this tells us North Korean troops aren't just there for show.
Right.
They are in the thick of it.
Wow.
Which raises concerns about, things escalating further and potentially spilling over into neighboring regions.
That's a scary thought.
It is.
So to sum it all up, we've got the EU taking a strong stance against North Korea.
Yeah.
International tensions are rising.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of unanswered questions about what happens next.
So many questions.
It's messy.
It's a tangled web.
For sure.
And it could impact everyone involved.
Absolutely. So as you all continue to follow this developing story, here's something to think about.
Okay.
What might the long-term consequences of North Korea being in Russia be for global security?
That's a big one.
This has the potential to reshape alliances.
Totally.
Redefine who has power.
Yeah.
And it could have a lasting impact on international relations.
Absolutely. It's a situation to watch very closely.
For sure.